Upon hearing that I was ugly, Lu Huayan annulled our engagement overnight and instead proposed to my beautiful stepsister. Helpless, I had no choice but to remarry his indifferent, impotent elder brother, an ugly woman paired with a sickly invalid. They're a match made in heaven. We instantly became the laughingstock of the entire capital. Unexpectedly, on my wedding day, when my former fiancé came to offer me tea, he couldn't help but stare at me, transfixed. His elder brother, a faint smile playing on his lips, said, "Brother, come, greet your sister-in-law properly." Ever since the two families exchanged marriage contracts, Lu Huayan's marriage to my stepsister Yu Jiaoyu was set in stone. Young Master Lu doted on his future wife, sending a steady stream of betrothal gifts to our mansion, 28 crates in total, almost filling my stepsister's Indus pavilion to the brim. Over there, maids and old women busied themselves back and forth, all beaming with joy. My courtyard, however, was cold and desolate, not even a servant to sweep the floors. Eldest miss, let's face it, you just didn't have what it takes to win young Master Lu's heart, unlike our second miss, who only had to appear before young Master Lu once, and he came rushing to propose. 28 crates of betrothal gifts. Which noble family would spend so lavishly on a daughter-in-law? I'm afraid it's unparalleled in the entire capital. An old nanny from my stepmother's courtyard specially came to congratulate me. Her words were meant as congratulations, but they reeked of mockery, for Lu Huayan was originally the good match my mother had chosen for me. My mother was a noble lady from a prominent family. She had severed all ties with her maiden family to marry my father, who was then a down-on-his-luck scholar. She never complained about the hardships of plain food and simple clothes. She supported her husband, educated her children, and obeyed her parents-in-law. In her spare time at night, she would embroider by lamplight to supplement the family income. But once my father gained fame and fortune in officialdom, appointed as a third-rank official in the Hanlin Academy by the emperor, he grew tired of my mother's rigid adherence to etiquette and tradition. He brought his childhood sweetheart from the countryside, Zhong Shi, into the mansion. Zhong Shi was clever and calculating, always putting on a docile, pitiful act to win my father's affection. She soon became his sole favorite. My mother, raised to be reserved and dignified, could never learn Zhong Shi's coquettish ways, and naturally fell out of favor. Unable to bear her husband's favoritism toward his concubine over his legal wife, she soon fell ill from pent-up grief. Confined to her bed, a parent's love for their child means planning for their future. On her deathbed, my mother exhausted her last strength to secure my future. She swallowed her pride and asked her lifelong friend from her maiden days, Madame Lin, the matriarch of the Lu family, for help. Madame Lin and my mother were deeply bonded. Seeing my mother reduced to a skeleton, she couldn't help but tear up. "You've always been obedient and gentle, never stepping out of line. The only reckless thing you ever did was marry that Yu man, and it turned out to be a mistake." My mother stroked her hand, forcing a bitter smile. "My dear sister, my life is coming to an end, but Yuna is still young. After I'm gone, this vast Yu mansion will be nothing but a den of wolves for her." Madame Lin was a shrewd woman. She understood my mother's request in an instant and promised, "Don't worry. Yuna will be the daughter-in-law of the Lu family. No one can take away her dignity." Yet that dignity was never meant to be mine. Madame Lin, who had been capable and diligent all her life, passed away 5 years later, following in my mother's footsteps, worn out from overwork. Fortunately, Uncle Lu remembered Madame Lin's last wish and refused to nullify my engagement to Lu Huayan, but Lu Huayan refused to comply. After my mother's death, my father officially married Zhong Shi, making her his legal wife. Her daughter, Yu Jiaoyu, naturally became the legitimate daughter of the Yu family. Zhong Shi spared no effort to marry her stepdaughter into a noble family. She raised Yu Jiaoyu to be even more beautiful and passed on all her tricks for pleasing men. Moreover, whenever there was a banquet at an official's residence, Zhong Shi would eagerly take Yu Jiaoyu to attend, hoping to promote her precious daughter. Thanks to Zhong Shi's maneuvering, over time, Yu Jiaoyu's beauty and virtue spread among the young nobles of the capital. As for me, who never appeared in public and was forgotten in the inner courtyard, I was described as ugly and jealous, far from a suitable wife. Young nobles infatuated with Yu Zhaoyu flocked to her like carp crossing a river. However, some were too rigid in their family status, their elders refusing to allow a woman raised by a countrywoman to marry into their family. Others held too low official positions, which Zhongshe deemed unworthy of her daughter. After much deliberation, the only suitable candidate was Lu Huayan, who was already betrothed to me. Uncle Lu was a first-rank minister of the imperial household, busy with state affairs all day and having no time to care for his two sons. Lu Huayan, the youngest son, had been raised in his grandmother's courtyard, spoiled to the point of being lawless. After Madame Lin's death, with no one to discipline him, he became even more unruly. Upon hearing that I was extremely ugly, he annulled our engagement overnight. On the day of the annulment, he accidentally met my stepsister at the Yu mansion. Enchanted by her beauty, he immediately decided to propose to her. When Uncle Lu returned from court and learned of this, he picked up a teacup and smashed it over Lu Huayan's head, leaving it bleeding. Lusting after your fiancé's younger sister, what's the difference between you and a beast? Lu Huayan angrily covered his wound, complaining. What kind of wife is Yu Zhaoyun to me? I'm unmarried, she's unwed, we only have a piece of paper as a contract. Seeing that he was unrepentant, Uncle Lu was about to punish him more severely, but his own mother couldn't bear to see her grandson suffer the slightest harm and defended him vigorously. Huayan is right, if you insist on forcing him to marry Miss Yu the elder, and he does something foolish out of despair, this old body of mine won't go on living either. Uncle Lu couldn't resist his mother's tears and threats, so he had to agree. Overjoyed, Lu Huayan sent all 28 crates of betrothal gifts that Madame Lin had originally prepared for me to Yu Zhaoyu's residence. Lost in these thoughts, I pondered for a moment, then replied calmly and respectfully, "My sister is extremely beautiful. She deserves young Master Lu's devotion. Such blessings, I can only envy them." The old nanny, disappointed that she didn't see me look jealous or distressed, turned around and left angrily. Suddenly, a servant from the front courtyard came running, shouting, "Eldest miss, eldest miss. The eldest young master of the Lu family has come to present betrothal gifts." The nanny, who was about to leave, froze, her eyes wide with shock. "What did you say?" The servant approached, caught his breath, and respectfully presented the list of betrothal gifts with both hands. "Nanny Hua, just now Lord Lu and the eldest young master of the Lu family came to visit in person. They said the marriage contract between the Lu family and eldest miss cannot be annulled. Since young Master Lu II refuses to marry her, young Master Lu I will marry her instead." Nanny Hua couldn't believe it, gritting her teeth and asking, "How many crates of betrothal gifts are there?" She seemed certain that my betrothal gifts would be less valuable than Yu Zhaoyu's, hoping to save face. 48 crates. 48 crates, almost double Yu Zhaoyu's. Now it was Nanny Hua's turn to be deflated. Still unwilling to give up, she said, "How is that possible? Does young Master Lu I really take a fancy to eldest miss?" The servant stepped aside and said to me, "Young Master Lu I asked me to tell eldest miss that he has been weak since childhood and is afraid he cannot fulfill all his duties as a husband. Therefore, he specially prepared extra betrothal gifts so as not to let eldest miss down. If eldest miss still minds his health and wishes to marry someone else, he will not force her. He will prepare generous gifts and send you off in style as the honored Lady Lu." He had given me both face and dignity. Nanny Hua had no more barbs to throw, her face turning green with disgust, as if she had swallowed a fly. "Miss, Lord Lu and young Master Lu I are waiting in the front hall, expecting your answer in person." Young Master Lu I, Lu Huayu, was raised by Madame Lin herself. If it weren't for his poor health, I would have married him originally. After all these twists and turns, we ended up tied together. A woman's fate is always beyond her control, in this life. The most important thing is to marry well. One can only hope for a considerate and progressive husband, and filial, promising children that would be the greatest happiness. Judging by how the Lu family stood up for me today, I thought, my mother's gamble had paid off. If I refused, given my father's bias toward Zhongshe and her cruelty, I would never have a chance to rise. I might be randomly married off to some nobody, wasting away the rest of my life. With that, I went into my room to change my clothes, preparing to meet Lu Huayu. When I entered the main hall, I only heard Zhongsha's endless chatter. She insisted, trying to persuade, Lord Lu, Zhao Yun is clumsy and stubborn, refusing to obey discipline on a daily basis. How can she be the matriarch of the Lu family? Upon hearing this, Uncle Lu sipped his tea slowly, ignoring Zhongsha's instigation. Zhongsha realized Uncle Lu was deliberately snubbing her, feeling humiliated. She winked at my father. In inner courtyard matters, my father always obeyed Zhongsha. He echoed, my daughter is indeed unfit for such a great responsibility. Lord Lu, perhaps you should choose someone else. I interrupted him. Father, I am willing to marry young Master Lu I as his wife. Standing quietly behind the screen, feeling the intense gazes of everyone present, I said firmly. The marriage between the Lu and Yu families was the only last wish of my mother and Madame Lin. If I marry into the Lu family, they will surely be happy in the afterlife. Zhongsha, who had been complacent about her daughter marrying into a noble family just moments ago, now clenched her handkerchief tightly, her knuckles turning white with anger. Both marrying into the Lu family, Yu Zhaoyu only received 28 crates of betrothal gifts, while I received 48. Moreover, Lord Lu and young Master Lu I had come in person to present the gifts. Wasn't this clearly telling the world that the Lu family valued their eldest daughter-in-law more? Zhongsha cared most about face in public. This act was undoubtedly stepping on her dignity and rubbing it into the ground. Although Zhongsha and my father tried to create trouble, fortunately, my mother had obtained a marriage contract as proof during her lifetime, both emotionally and rationally. They couldn't break the contract privately. 2 months later, on the auspicious date already chosen, my stepsister and I married into the Lu family on the same day. On the wedding night, when I removed the round fan covering my face, even the cold and indifferent Lu Huayu was stunned for a moment. The rumors about you, my lady, are all false. Yes, in truth, I was not ugly. Those rumors were all made up by Zhongsha. And Lu Huayu's appearance also surprised me. Exquisitely handsome, breathtakingly beautiful, having such an incredibly handsome husband, one who was also rumored to be indifferent and unemotional. I couldn't help but feel the urge to tease him. That night, Lu Huayu had no intention of touching me. He only tucked me in gently and urged me to sleep early, reminding me that as a new bride, I would have to get up early the next day to offer tea to old Madame Lu, but with a beauty lying beside me. The crisp, cool fragrance wafting from his robe made my heart feel as if it were being scratched by a cat's claws. I tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep no matter how hard I tried. Why is my lady tossing and turning, unable to sleep? Sensing my restlessness, Lu Huayu put his left arm around my waist, pulling me into his embrace in one smooth motion, comforting me as if soothing a child. In my eyes, this was nothing short of deliberate flirtation. I hesitated for a moment, then stammered, "Husband, why don't we try?" He smiled softly. "Try what?" That look, he clearly knew what I meant and was just pretending not to. I pressed a light kiss to his lips as a response. Desire gradually stirred in his eyes, his voice growing hoarse. "I hope my lady won't regret this." Regret? Sharing the night with such a beauty, how could I ever regret it? An hour later, I lay perspiring lightly on his chest, gasping for breath, and whispered weakly, "The rumors about you, husband, are not true either." Who on earth had spread such nonsense about the eldest young master of the Lu family being weak, indifferent, and impotent? "My lady, shall we go again?" Lu Huayu played with a lock of my loose hair, his tone playful. After that intense session, my whole body felt like it was falling apart. I quickly burrowed under the covers. No, no more. The next day, I endured the soreness and went to offer tea to old Madame Lu on time. Old Madame Lu was Lord Lu's birth mother. Now over 60 years old, she was still in good spirits, but the old lady seemed to dislike Lu Huayu, and by extension, she didn't care much for me either. She kept a stern face the entire time, craning her neck to look toward the door. She must have been waiting for Lu Huayan and Yu Zhaoyu, yet the couple was nowhere to be seen. No doubt they had been consumed by passion the previous night, unable to stop. After nearly another half hour, My teacup had been refilled countless times before the two finally arrived, unhurried and late. Yu Jiaoyu looked even more radiant than before. As soon as Lu Huayan entered, he first paid his respects to the old lady, then his gaze fell on me, who was standing by to serve, and he stared, unable to tear his eyes away, noticing his daze. Lu Huayu smiled faintly and said softly, "Brother, come, greet your sister-in-law properly." Hearing the word sister-in-law, Lu Huayan's eyes trembled slightly with confusion, anger, and finally, resignation. He could only say respectfully, "May sister-in-law be blessed." I accepted his greeting, then praised him as an elder would. "I've long heard that Njia has an extraordinary demeanor. Seeing you today, I realize the rumors are true." On the surface, it was a compliment. But in reality, it was a veiled sarcasm, chiding him for believing rumors, breaking our engagement so easily, and leaving me in a hopeless situation. Clearly, Lu Huayan understood my implication. His face turned ashen instantly. "Sister-in-law, please drink the tea," Yu Jiaoyu interrupted in time, trying to ease the tense atmosphere. We were both sisters and sisters-in-law. Since she had offered me tea, I couldn't afford to humiliate her in front of everyone. After drinking the tea, I should have put on the airs of the eldest sister-in-law and instructed her a few words, but the old lady snorted coldly from the side. "Njia's wife seems much sharper than Yujia's wife. From now on, let her manage the inner courtyard of the Lu family. As for Yujia's wife, just focus on serving your husband. His health is poor, he needs someone to attend to him at all times." With just a few words, the old lady proved herself a master of stirring up trouble. In the inner courtyard, the eldest branch had always been the most respected. Now she wanted to promote the second branch to power, forcing me to hand over the position of matriarch to Yu Jiaoyu. Joy was evident on Yu Jiaoyu's face as she replied obediently, "Thank you, grandmother." As a new bride, how could I contradict an elder? As soon as I entered the mansion, I could only nod reluctantly, swallowing back the words of instruction I had prepared for Yu Jiaoyu, feeling wronged. "Sister," after we left the old lady's courtyard, Yu Jiaoyu called out to me when we were alone, "Do you know why grandmother dislikes Lu Huayu, and why she wants you to hand over the matriarch's position to me?" The sound of sister made me momentarily dazed. My memories of Yu Jiaoyu were stuck in our childhood. Back then, she was naturally cute, always following behind me, begging for the rock candy horse I bought. Later, Zhongsha sowed discord between us. And people's hearts changed. Our relationship gradually became distant, like strangers. Now, calling me sister again over a decade of estrangement lay between us. "I'd be grateful if you'd enlighten me." "Sister," I said, her tone rose, full of joy, "because Lu Huayu is not of the Lu family's blood. He's a bastard that mother-in-law picked up. She took pity on him for being alone and raised him as her own. Since he's not a real member of the Lu family, he naturally doesn't deserve to hold power in the mansion. Poor sister, you've been kept in the dark, not knowing that the man you married is just an adopted son with no real status." No doubt she had learned Lu Huayu's background from Lu Huayan and had come specifically to gloat. I thought for a moment, then said slowly, "So what if he's an adopted son?" From the first moment I saw Lu Huayu, I knew he was my husband regardless of his status. As for you, sister, being so obsessed with titles makes me wonder, when you married Njia, did you value him as a person, or his status as the legitimate son of the Lu family? Yu Jiaoyu was eager to defend herself. "Of course I value him as a person." "Is that so?" I smiled playfully. "To steal this marriage from me? You didn't hesitate to gamble with your reputation. The first time you met him, you pretended to slip and fall into the lotus pond, deliberately creating an intimate encounter with Lu Huayan, who jumped in to save you. What puzzles me is, you're clearly an excellent swimmer. Why did you suddenly need someone to rescue you that day?" Yu Jiaoyu and Zhongsha thought they had hidden the truth perfectly, but the old servants who had served my mother had long secretly told me the whole story. "You're spouting nonsense. Lies will always be exposed. I'm afraid you can hide the truth for a while, but not forever." I turned to leave, only to see Lu Huayu and Lu Huayan standing in the shadows, having arrived who knew when. They must have heard every word of our conversation. Lu Huayu still wore that faint, elusive smile. Lu Huayan's face, however, grew even darker. He finally slammed his sleeve and left. Lu Huayu seemed to be in a very good mood. When we returned to our room, he took out a thick stack of land deeds from a box. I flipped through them briefly and saw the deeds to several famous shops, including a restaurant that was a favorite haunt of high-ranking officials in the capital. The annual profits from these shops alone were probably enough to support several Lu mansions. My lady, these are the properties I've accumulated secretly. No one in the family knows about them except father. From now on, they're yours to manage. It turned out that the 48 crates of betrothal gifts Lu Huayu had brought when he proposed were not from Lord Lu at all. From that day on, I really had no time to meddle in the trivial matters of the Lu family. Instead, I immersed myself in learning how to run a business alongside Lu Huayu. When Lord Lu learned that the old lady was deliberately suppressing us, he rarely lost his temper at the dinner table with his mother, who had raised him alone. What noble family in the capital acts like this? Our dynasty has always respected the order of seniority and hierarchy. If you let the second branch dominate now, it's equivalent to telling the world that the Lu mansion is in chaos, full of conflicts. The old lady had been a farmer all her life. Unable to read a single character, she only had such a comfortable life now because she had given birth to a promising son. She didn't care about hierarchy or face. All she knew was that she couldn't let Lu Huayu, an outsider she had picked up, ride above her own grandson. Have you lost your mind? You don't care about your own biological son, but you yell at me for a bastard who was abandoned by his parents. Don't forget, you came out of my womb. You have no right to teach me what to do. The pain of his origins was exposed in public. Lu Huayu looked calm, as if he was used to it. But his left hand was clenched into a fist behind his back. I placed my hand over his, gesturing with my eyes that he didn't need to care. Then I stepped in to mediate, taking the initiative to say that I had asked my sister-in-law to help manage the inner courtyard's affairs because I wanted to focus on taking care of Lu Huayu. It wasn't that I was particularly considerate or willing to compromise. The main reason was that Lu Huayu had too many properties under his name. Every day I had to read a stack of account books. I simply had no time to handle the mansion's affairs. I had thought the rumors about Lu Huayu's poor health were just gossip, but it turned out he had spread them himself. Pretending to be ill really could save a lot of trouble. No need to get involved in inner courtyard struggles. Time to run his business, and the ability to accumulate wealth quietly, avoiding drawing too much attention. So I followed Lu Huayu's example, using illness as an excuse to make my life easier. Furthermore, since Lu Huayu was not Lord Lu's biological son, if I insisted on defying the old lady and competing with Yu Jiaoyu for the position of matriarch, I would only get myself into trouble, and my future days would be miserable. It was better to step back wisely. It might even earn me a little guilt from them. Another Qingming festival arrived. Lord Lu took Lu Huayu and Lu Huayan back to their hometown to worship their ancestors. Before their departure, I carefully packed his clothes and luggage, instructing him repeatedly, although it's April and the weather has warmed up a bit, you still need to keep warm, especially at night. Be careful not to catch a cold. Make sure to cover yourself with a thick quilt. Oh, and this is a new spring robe I made for you. It's perfect for this season. Also, there are signs of war breaking out in the west. Once the world is in chaos, there may be bandits roaming the mountains. You must be careful. Lu Huayu stood aside, wearing a moon-white robe. The simple, plain color made him look as elegant as the clear wind and bright moon, as cold and divine as a god, yet his eyes, fixed on me, were filled with intense desire, as if he were a god tempting the world to sink. I avoided his burning gaze, trying to play dumb. But suddenly the world spun around me, and I was pinned beneath him. Ayun, this trip will take at least 10 days. Is there nothing else you want to do before I leave? His voice was slightly hoarse. Anything else? I paused to think earnestly, then replied, yes, I should pack a few more jars of ointment for father-in-law. Disappointed by my lack of flirtation, he withdrew his hands from my body at once, but the next second, I pulled him back down, pressed a soft kiss to his eyes, and smiled. Just teasing you, silly. After Lu Huayu left, I grew even busier. There was a small shop called Mingzhu Pavilion, which originally sold jewelry and hair ornaments, but Lu Huayu was not good at running a business catering to women, and it was on the verge of closing down. After I took over the shop from him, I poured a great deal of effort into revitalizing it, even hiring a few girls to help manage it. They were all orphans with nowhere else to go. If I hadn't taken them in, they would probably have starved to death. Fortunately, the girls were very ambitious. Not only did they quickly learn to read and keep account books, but they were also skilled at serving customers, often charming noble ladies into spending thousands of taels of silver. Recently, a batch of priceless jade had arrived at the shop, and I had to inspect it personally, but as soon as I stepped through the door, I heard a girl's voice ring out sharply, speaking in an arrogant tone. "Who does Yu Zhaoyun think she is? How dare she compare herself to our young lady? If our young lady hadn't refused to marry Lu Huayu back then, she would never have gotten the position of the eldest young mistress of the Lu family." Panna, a new girl of only 13 or 14, had never seen such a scene before. She ran over to me, crying as she complained, "Madam, this master and servant took the most expensive jadeite bracelet in the shop without paying. They even said this shop was originally our young lady's, so why should they pay for things from their own store?" Sister.later argued with them, but that rude maid slapped her hard. Her face is all swollen. I comforted Panna softly until she finally stopped crying. The master and servant in front of me were clearly of extraordinary background. The young lady, in particular, was stunningly beautiful, with fair skin. The silk skirt she wore was made of cloud brocade, a fabric extremely popular among royal nobles these days. Any woman who could afford such cloth must be either a princess, a duchess, or at the very least, the descendant of a duke. Besides, Lu Huayu and I had always kept a low profile, never publicizing our true identities, yet they knew we were the owners behind Mingzhu Pavilion. It seemed they were not lying. The young lady mentioned by the maid was not only noble-born but also had a close relationship with Lu Huayu. Wearing a black veiled hat, I whispered to Panna, telling her to go tell Sister Tsueqiao to let them take whatever they wanted. No need to argue. Panna looked confused, but she did as she was told. When I returned to the mansion, I sent for the nanny who had taken care of Lu Huayu since he was a child. I asked her indirectly if Lu Huayu knew anyone from the imperial family. The nanny told me that when Lu Huayu was 8 years old, Lord Lu had sent him to the Duke of Wuguo's mansion to be a companion to the young Duke, Shangguan Mingrue. Shangguan Mingrue had a twin sister named Shangguan Mingzhu. Mingzhu Pavilion, Shangguan Mingzhu. The shop had been named after her. Why had Lu Huayu never mentioned his past with Shangguan Mingzhu? My chest felt as if it were being crushed by a stone, making it hard to breathe. "Eldest young mistress, you may not know this," the nanny continued, "but the mother of the Shangguan siblings is the third princess, who is deeply favored by the Empress Dowager. The third princess dotes most on her only daughter, Princess Mingzhu. When Princess Mingzhu got married, her wedding procession stretched for 10 miles along the street. When I was unmarried, I had lived alone in the back courtyard all year round, so I had never heard of this." "Who did she marry?" I asked. The nanny sighed helplessly. "A stable hand, a man who took care of horses at the Duke's mansion." When the third princess and the Duke of Wuguo found out, they were so angry they almost killed every member of the stablehand's family for 3 generations. But Princess Mingzhu threatened to kill herself, and they were utterly helpless against her. A pampered princess, married to a stablehand, but... The nanny hesitated. "But what?" I pressed. "Princess Mingzhu only stayed married to that stablehand for a year before she demanded a divorce. I heard she kicked him and his mother out of the princess's mansion overnight, without an ounce of mercy. The next day, a message came from the old lady's courtyard saying that a distinguished guest had arrived, and she wanted me to go with her to receive them. Usually, when guests came to the mansion, the old lady would ask Yu Zhaoyu to accompany her. Why had she changed her mind today? Though confused, I tidied myself up neatly and went as I was told. Before I even reached the door, I heard laughter and chatter coming from inside. The atmosphere was quite harmonious. Suddenly, someone sneered, "Old madam, I've heard rumors that Huayu's wife is as ugly as a female demon. Is it true?" The usually arrogant old lady lowered her stance uncharacteristically, her tone dripping with flattery. "She's not that ugly, in my opinion, she's just moderately attractive. But she's from a minor official's family, she can't help being petty and vulgar, far beneath your grace and elegance." "Your Highness." So the distinguished guest was Shangguan Mingzhu. The old lady really knew how to curry favor. I was used to such ridicule by now. I steadied my nerves, then walked into the room calmly and composedly. "Grandmother, your granddaughter-in-law greets you." Hearing me address myself as her granddaughter-in-law, Shangguan Mingzhu immediately knew who I was. When she got a clear look at my face, her expression shifted dramatically from surprise to jealousy, then to unwillingness. Finally, she asked, feigning ignorance, "You are Yu Zhaoyun?" I nodded slightly, my gaze falling on the jadeite bracelet Shangguan Mingzhu had taken from my shop. It was now lying on the old lady's desk. "I called you here to discuss something," the old lady said, her attitude toward me still haughty. It sounded less like a discussion and more like an order. "This is Princess Mingzhu, the only daughter of the third princess, and the emperor's own niece. She grew up with Huayu. They have always been close. You've been married for over a year and still haven't given birth to an heir. Huayu and Princess Mingzhu have always been in love. So I, your grandmother, intend to make the decision to unite this pair of lovers." It seemed Shangguan Mingzhu had grown tired of her stable-hand husband and now wanted to rekindle her relationship with Lu Huayu. I understood instantly. I curved my lips into a smile and asked, "Grandmother, does this mean you want Princess Mingzhu to be my husband's concubine?" Shangguan Mingzhu looked as if she had been subjected to a great insult. She snapped angrily, "My father is the Duke of Wugua, and my mother is the emperor's own sister. Marrying into your Lu family is already a great honor. How dare you suggest I be a concubine?" The old lady rushed to defend her at once. "Princess Mingzhu is of noble birth, of course. She will marry into the Lu family as the legal wife, carried through the main gate in a grand sedan chair with 8 bearers, in a proper arranged marriage. As for you," the old lady's eyes narrowed, "your family is only a third-rank official's household. You were never worthy of Huayu. But our Lu family is not unreasonable. When the time comes, I will let Huayu make you a noble concubine. If you are obedient, serve Huayu and the princess well, and fulfill your duties as a concubine. You may still have a place in the Lu family." I lowered my eyes, but my voice remained calm and unyielding. "My family background may be ordinary, but I was married to my husband in a proper ceremony with 3 matchmakers and 6 betrothals, brought into this mansion in great splendor. I am not some cat or dog that can be bought and sold at will. If grandmother insists on demoting me from wife to concubine to make room for Princess Mingzhu, you will inevitably be condemned by others, and the princess will also be subject to public criticism." The old lady was so enraged by my refusal that she clutched her chest, her face turning red with anger. Just then, a nanny entered and whispered something in her ear. After listening, the old lady's anger flared even hotter. She picked up a nearby teacup and threw it at me without hesitation. The cup hit my forehead, splitting the skin open and drawing blood. Shangguan Mingzhu was clearly startled. She asked, "What's going on?" The nanny explained everything in detail. Second young master was drinking at a restaurant some time ago and became quite close to Hongxiao, the daughter of the restaurant's owner. Second young mistress has resented this for a long time. While second young master was away, she took a group of servants from the mansion and beat Hongxiao until she was covered in injuries. But Hongxiao is not one to be bullied. She has taken our Lu family to the prefectural court. This was Yu Zhaoyu's fault. Why was she taking her anger out on me? Sensing my injustice, the nanny added, "This old servant heard that Hongxiao looks quite similar to you, eldest young mistress. That's why second young mistress lost her temper so violently." What a scandal! Mockery and triumph flickered in Shangguan Mingzhu's eyes. The old lady gasped for breath, clutching her chest as she glared at me fiercely. "I knew you were a jinx, a seductress. Ever since you married into this family, nothing but trouble has followed. And now you've gotten Huayan entangled in a lawsuit. When Huayu comes back from Fuzhu, I'll make him divorce you. You'll never be allowed to stay in the Lu family again." Shangguan Mingzhu handed the old lady a cup of tea, soothing her. "Old madam, don't be angry, take care of your health. She's just a lowly merchant's daughter." She can't possibly turn the tables on us. I have a plan to cover up this mess. Before revealing her plan, Shangguan Mingzhu gestured for the old lady to chase me out of the room. After that day, the bond between the old lady and Shangguan Mingzhu grew even stronger. Shangguan Mingzhu came to the mansion almost every 2 days to have meals with her, acting just like another young mistress of the household. When Lu Huayu finally returned home, the two of them were sitting together drinking tea and chatting, while Yu Zhaoyu and I stood silently on either side. Because of Shangguan Mingzhu's presence, the old lady looked at Lu Huayu with approval for the first time. She hurried to beckon him over, pretending to fuss over him with half-hearted concern. His eyes first fell on me, but then he was distracted by a sweet, coquettish voice calling, "Huayu Gij." The sight of Shangguan Mingzhu clearly took him by surprise. She seemed to savor the look of disbelief on his face, breaking into a bright, charming smile. "My dear grandson," the old lady said, beaming, "didn't you always pester us to let you marry Princess Mingzhu when you were little? When you were 16, you heard that Princess Mingzhu was about to discuss marriage, and you even cried and begged your father to go to the Duke's mansion to ask for her hand in marriage." Lu Huayu did not rush to deny it. I remained silent, a lump forming in my throat. Princess Mingzhu made a mistake in her youth by marrying the wrong man, the old lady continued smoothly, but fortunately, she came to her senses in time and is now single again. Grandmother knows you've loved the princess for years, and grandmother also adores her very much, so I want to make the decision to let you two rekindle your relationship. What do you think? Not only Lu Huayu, but even Lu Huayan and Yu Zhaoyu, who were outsiders to this matter, looked shocked. "Grandmother," Lu Huayu said without the slightest hesitation, giving a clear answer, "I already have a Yun." The hope in Shangguan Mingzhu's eyes flickered and died instantly, and the smile on her face faded away little by little. The old lady refused to let up. "Marrying Yu Zhaoyun was your father's idea in the first place, not yours. Now that grandmother is backing you, even your father wouldn't dare to oppose you. If you're worried that divorcing her will anger the Yu family, grandmother will take care of that too. I'll make sure those Yus can't utter a single word of complaint. You have no need for worries, just focus on living a good life with the princess." The atmosphere was as tense as a stretched bowstring. In the dead silence, everyone waited for Lu Huayu's response. "I only want a Yun." His tone was calm, but his gaze was unwavering. Shangguan Mingzhu said not a word, then stormed off in a rage. Lu Huayu made no further delay. Intending to take me out of the room, before leaving, he said coldly, "Grandson will request father's permission to move out with a Yun and live separately from the main mansion. We won't trouble you anymore, grandmother." We had taken no more than a few steps when the old lady's voice rang out behind us, filled with frustration and disappointment. "What on earth is so good about that vixen Yu Zhaoyun? If you marry the princess, she's promised to secure high official positions and great wealth for you and Huayan. The rest of your lives would be filled with boundless prosperity." Lu Huayu paid her no heed. Seeing that he remained unmoved, the old lady resorted to her usual tactic, weeping, wailing, and threatening suicide. She menaced, "Even if you don't care about yourself, you should think of your younger brother. If you still refuse to agree today, I'll smash my head against the wall and die. Then you'll never be able to live happily with Yu Zhaoyun, not for the rest of your life." Lu Huayu came to a halt. "Husband." My mind raced with 1,000 thoughts, unsure of how to break this deadlock. He lifted his eyes, his gaze falling on my unhealed wound. The sight of it seemed to pierce him, cementing his resolve to leave. Just as we were about to step over the threshold, a loud *bang* echoed behind us. It was followed by Lu Huayan's panicked cry, "Grandmother." The old lady had failed to kill herself, but she was left bedridden. Lu Huayu still refused to back down, so I had no choice but to go and apologize to father-in-law. With the war raging in the West, father-in-law was already swamped with official duties. Now he had to deal with these endless family troubles upon returning home from court, leaving him utterly exhausted. He removed his official hat, saying helplessly, "This is not your fault, it's mine. I knew my own mother was shallow and ignorant. Yet I let her run amok however she pleased. That is how things have come to this." Beneath the flickering candlelight, Father-in-law stared alone at the portrait of Madame Lin hanging on the wall, his figure shrouded in loneliness. Lu Huayu and I chose a new residence and moved out of the Lu mansion soon after. One evening, after we had finished dinner, we suddenly noticed that the Lu mansion was ablaze with lights. Curious about what was happening, we were approached by an old servant, who came stumbling over, shouting in alarm, "Eldest young master, eldest young mistress, disaster has struck, disaster has struck." Lu Huayu steadied the old servant, asking, "What's happened?" The old servant, too breathless to wipe the sweat from his brow, replied anxiously, "Master Shangguan Mingrue of the Duke of Wuguo's mansion has arrived with a large contingent of guards. He claims that Lord Lu and second young master have abused their power to oppress a common woman, formed factions for personal gain, and been involved in the embezzlement of military grain supplies. He has already obtained the Emperor's imperial edict to dismiss them from their posts and investigate them according to the law." When the old lady heard this news, she immediately stopped breathing and passed away on the spot. "How could this happen?" I demanded. "Eldest young master, eldest young mistress, the mansion is in complete chaos right now." Second young mistress was so overwhelmed by the shock that she fainted. "Please, come back and take charge. Please go back and see." When Lu Huayu and I rushed to the Lu mansion, Shangguan Mingrue's sedan chair happened to be parked just ahead of us. Through the thin silk curtain, a low chuckle drifted out, his tone mocking and frivolous. "So this is your wife. She's truly beautiful. No wonder you were unwilling to let her go." He was hidden in the shadows, his features indistinct like a venomous spider lying in wait. Lu Huayu's face darkened with rage. He struggled to contain his fury before speaking. "You framed the Lu family. Why?" The low chuckle on the other side gradually turned into unrestrained laughter. "Because you made my only sister unhappy. It's as simple as that." Upon hearing this, Lu Huayu could no longer contain his overwhelming hatred. He instinctively moved to charge forward, but was blocked by Shangguan Mingrue's men. "Your sister is the apple of your eye. Does that mean my family's lives are worth no more than weeds?" Shangguan Mingrue snorted disdainfully. "Lu Huayu, Mingzhu gave you a chance. You were the one who threw it away and broke her heart. So it is you who destroyed your family, not me. For old time's sake, I'll give you 5 days. If you fail to make my sister happy within 5 days, I can't guarantee that Lord Lu won't suddenly lose his resolve and commit suicide in prison to atone for his so-called crimes." His sedan chair resumed its journey. As it passed me, it came to a halt once more. A jade bone fan extended from the window to lift the curtains slightly. Following the fan's handle, a pair of slender, well-defined hands could be faintly seen, their pale, cold skin striking against the shadows. "Little lady," he said, "if one day you grow tired of following your husband, feel free to come to my duke's mansion." The Lu mansion was on the verge of being searched and confiscated. I dismissed all the servants, arranged for Yu Jiaoyu to stay at our new residence, then rushed back and forth with Lu Huayu to prepare for the old lady's funeral. Because of the criminal charges against the family, very few guests came to pay their respects. The funeral, which should have been a grand affair, ended up being a simple, somber event. After some rest and recuperation, the unconscious Yu Jiaoyu finally woke up. I personally fed her medicine, but she turned her head away when the spoon reached her lips. Tears pooled in her eyes as she asked, "Has grandmother passed away?" I was still dressed in plain white mourning clothes. She must have guessed the news from that. "Yes," I replied. "What about father-in-law and Huayan?" "They're imprisoned, awaiting their sentence." She could no longer hold back her tears and began to weep. I offered her the medicine again, comforting her. "This is not the time for excessive grief. You should think about the child in your womb." Her tears hung suspended in her eyes as she stared at me in astonishment. "A child? The physician diagnosed you as 2 months pregnant. You must not harm your body before the fetus is fully stabilized." Hope flickered in her eyes. She quickly sat up and drank all the medicine. After finishing it, she regained a bit of her spirits and said slowly, "Father-in-law's imprisonment must have something to do with Shangguan Mingzhu. I've made inquiries. It was she who instructed grandmother to use father-in-law's name to bribe officials everywhere, blocking Hongxiao's attempts to seek justice and suppressing the entire incident." The mention of Hongxiao made the atmosphere turn slightly awkward. Sensing this, she hastened to explain, "Don't be so conceited. The reason I beat Hongxiao had nothing to do with you. That shameless woman actually had the audacity to flaunt Huayan's personal jade pendant everywhere. Her father even went around boasting that Huayan had promised to take Hongxiao as his official wife and that she would soon marry into the Lu mansion as the second young mistress. I couldn't swallow that humiliation, that's why I beat them." I listened silently, then fetched a plate of preserved fruit and offered it to her. "Apricot preserves from Yanglin. Would you like to try some?" If I remembered correctly, these had been Yu Zhaoyue's favorite snack when she was a child. She stared at the preserves, her expression somewhat unnatural. She hesitated for a moment before asking, "Don't you hate me, for everything that happened before?" "I used to hate you, now I don't." When it came down to it, the person I truly hated was neither her nor Zhongshe, it was my own father, Yu Huayan. It was he who had been ungrateful, who had favored his concubine over his wife, who had stood idly by while I suffered. Everything had started because of him, and I would never forgive him, not in this lifetime. I lowered my eyes, temporarily suppressing that hatred, and said slowly, "Besides, who has the time to dwell on hate right now? With everything that's happened to the family, we're all in the same boat. The most important thing is to find a way to save father-in-law and Lu Huayan." She looked at me, her eyes sharp with understanding. "You seem so calm and composed. Do you have a plan?" "I do have a plan. I just don't know if he will be willing to help." The 5-day deadline given by Shangguan Mingrui had arrived. The court was in an uproar that day. More than half of the grain transported to the Western Front was moldy and adulterated with gravel, passing off inferior goods as high-quality provisions. Moreover, our dynasty had been plagued by disasters in recent years. Prolonged drought had left many regions in the West barren, with crops failing completely. The people were already struggling with hunger, making it impossible to raise enough grain locally in time. Worse still, the enemy forces were advancing aggressively. If the grain supplies could not be delivered promptly, the cities would fall, and our nation would be reduced to negotiating peace through territorial concessions. "Have you made up your mind?" Princess Shangguan Mingzhu said. Sitting high and mighty in her sedan chair, her expression arrogant, "This princess has no patience to play games with you. If I don't receive your answer within the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, I'll tell my brother to persuade uncle to issue an imperial order to execute Lu Zhiping and Lu Huayan immediately. Then, there will be 3 lives between you and Lu Huayu. I'd like to see how you two can still shamelessly cling to each other in wedded bliss." The scorching sun hung high above my head. Suddenly, the sound of galloping horse hooves rang out. It was a squadron of black-armored imperial cavalry, riding along the street and shouting loudly, "Grand Tutor Wang has returned from his mission to Yesue. He has secured 40,000 dan of grain supplies. The West is saved, the West is saved." The people erupted in cheers. Shangguan Mingzhu's delicate eyebrows furrowed slightly. She muttered to herself, "Grand Tutor Wang." Grand Tutor Wang was a senior minister who had served 2 emperors and remained unshakable in his position, a man of immense power and influence, whom even the current emperor treated with deference, let alone the nobles and princes. I smiled brightly. "Princess, I forgot to tell you. My mother's maiden name was Wang. You may rely on the power of your maternal family to cover the sky with one hand. But I too can rely on the power of my maternal family to clear the clouds and let the sun shine through." Half a month later, an imperial edict was issued from the palace, stating that the embezzlement case had been thoroughly investigated and that father-in-law and Lu Huayan had been proven innocent. However, the case involving Hongxiao was indeed true. Father-in-law believed that his own indulgence had led to the corruption of the family's morals. He planned to resign from his official position to atone for his guilt. After much consideration, the emperor demoted him to the West to help the people resolve the drought crisis, allowing him to redeem himself through meritorious service. Everything seemed to return to calm as the sun dipped westward. I sat at the door, waiting for my husband Lu Huayu's return from his journey. A figure approached, draped in the afterglow of the setting sun. I squinted to get a clearer look, only to find it was not my husband Lu Huayu, but Grand Tutor Wang. No, more precisely, It was my maternal grandfather, whom I had never met. Several months earlier, Suechiao had traveled to the west to procure goods for our shop. She had casually mentioned the severe drought there, saying that by the time the court's disaster relief grain reached the common people's bowls, it was little more than a layer of rice soup. Many people couldn't even get their hands on this meager soup and starved to death. Strangely enough, overnight, a large quantity of grain suddenly appeared on the market, but the price was exorbitant, inflated to the level of gold. Ordinary people still couldn't afford it. Born into a poor family herself, Suechiao couldn't bear to see the streets lined with starving corpses. She asked me if there was anything I could do to save them. Unlike our dynasty, which had suffered years of drought, Yesue, the country across the river to the west, seemed to be blessed by the gods with abundant rainfall. If we wanted to save the people, the best way was to buy grain from Yesue. However, our ancestors had once been enemies with Yesue. It was already fortunate that the two countries had not resorted to war. How could they possibly engage in trade and mutual assistance? But the enemy's attack changed everything. If the enemy annexed our western territories, their strengthened military might would likely shift their next target to the neighboring lands of Yesue. It was a case of when the lips are gone, the teeth grow cold. Only a balance of power between the three sides could create mutual restraint. Persuading the king of Yesue to lend us grain would not be easy, though, in the eyes of others, I was merely a woman. My words carried little weight. It was already difficult for me to step beyond the confines of the inner courtyard, let alone meddle in political affairs. Helpless, I had no choice but to write a letter to the Grand Tutor's mansion, requesting my grandfather's assistance. As luck would have it, grandfather had also been planning a mission to Yesue. He rushed to the palace that night to present his proposal to the emperor, who gave his approval. Before his departure, I asked Lu Huayu to accompany him to Yesue. Bringing along a batch of jade, I had previously learned that the king of Yesue was extremely fond of jade, so I had carefully selected a collection of fine jade pieces to increase the chances of success in our persuasion. Lu Huayu wore out 3 horses, traveling day and night to enter Yesue's territory. As expected, the king, acutely aware of the lips and teeth crisis, quickly agreed to lend us the grain, rescuing our soldiers who had been besieged due to a shortage of provisions. After returning to the court, grandfather secretly received another imperial edict from the emperor, ordering him to thoroughly investigate the military grain embezzlement case. Though my grandfather and I had never met, we had maintained correspondence through letters. When he revealed in a letter that the emperor also suspected there was a deeper hidden plot behind the case, I sent him all the evidence I had gathered, based on Suechiao's account. I had privately investigated the large quantity of grain that had suddenly appeared on the western market. Its amount exactly matched the missing military grain. The mastermind behind the high-priced grain sales had close ties to a former subordinate of Shangguan Mingrue. Chillingly, the enormous amount of silver obtained from these sales did not enter the Duke's mansion's accounts. Instead, it flowed into the pockets of many high-ranking officials, trafficking in grain, bribing officials, forming cliques for personal gain. Shangguan Mingrue was the one who truly deserved to die. He must have known the matter was too serious to cover up completely, so he made father-in-law the scapegoat. This scheme not only allowed him to manipulate Lu Huayu but also divert blame elsewhere. It was truly a brilliant two-pronged plan. Fortunately, I was not without support, thanks to my grandfather's willingness to help despite past grievances. We had a chance to fight back. I quickly stood up to greet him, smiling warmly. I haven't had the time to come pay my respects to you, yet you've come to see me first. Grandfather's temples were streaked with grey hair. The old man who had dominated the political scene for 2 dynasties was as solemn and unsmiling as I had imagined. Only when he looked at me did a hint of compassion soften his eyes. He said, "You have a pair of eyes exactly like your mother's." I smiled naively. "Grandfather, my blood and bones are all gifts from my mother, passed down from generation to generation. How could I not look like her?" He looked greatly comforted. "Your mother never had a decent husband, but fortunately, she had a promising daughter. You are truly worthy of being a descendant of the Wang family." I asked him again, "Will the emperor really punish Shangguan Mingrue?" Shangguan Mingrue had undoubtedly committed more crimes than just this one. But he was a member of the imperial clan after all. As long as the third princess went to the Empress Dowager and shed a few tears, the matter would likely be swept under the rug, with no real consequences. Grandfather's expression turned grave. He will never rise again. This matter is far more than just bribing high-ranking officials. The general leading the troops this time is General Ning. General Ning holds heavy military power but is loyal and upright. Refusing to associate with Shangguan Mingrue has resented him for a long time, repeatedly trying to seize control of his military power. So you mean, Shangguan Mingrue wanted to trap General Ning to death, so he could install his own man in power? Exactly. Behind General Ning lies not only military power but also imperial authority. Shangguan Mingrue dared to risk losing national territory to achieve his goal of manipulating the court. This act is undoubtedly a provocation to the imperial power. It is suicide. Even the crown prince was eliminated for coveting imperial power and rebelling. Shangguan Mingrue is merely a princess's son. If His Majesty continues to turn a blind eye, I fear this entire nation will soon bear the surname Shangguan. Shangguan Mingrue had been acting recklessly for too long, inevitably growing arrogant and conceited. He enjoyed the privileges of his position yet bit the hand that fed him. He truly thought he was his uncle's own son. As it was time for him to return to the mansion, grandfather instructed me, "Bring your husband to the Grand Tutor's mansion for a visit someday. Your grandmother and I are old now, and we feel lonely at times. Don't be like your ungrateful mother, who refused to apologize to us until her dying day." I replied playfully, "I understand. You must live a long life, grandfather. When I have grandchildren in the future, I'll come to you and grandmother for red envelopes. Remember to prepare a big one for me." Lu Huayan had been imprisoned for some time. He had grown thinner but also more mature. He insisted on accompanying his father to the west to help combat the drought. Father-in-law had been worried about not having someone to run errands for him, so he readily agreed to Lu Huayan's request. The whole family finally gathered for a reunion meal. After dinner, Yu Jiaoyu offered father-in-law a cup of tea and said calmly, "Father, now that brother and sister-in-law are here, I ask the three elders to be my witnesses. I wish to divorce Huayan." Lu Huayan was so shocked that he dropped his teacup. He hurried to say, "What are you saying?" Yu Jiaoyu remained unusually calm. In recent days, while I had been busy working with grandfather to save people, she had taken care of the mansion's affairs alone. It seemed she had matured a great deal during this crisis. When my mother and I plotted against you, you saved me from drowning, but you also felt indebted to me. You had no choice but to marry me to preserve my reputation. These past few days, I've thought it through. Hongxiao is a good girl other than being a bit spoiled. She has no faults. She is well suited to you. Ever since I had exposed Yu Zhaoyue's true motives for marrying Lu Huayan, that she had only wanted his status as the legitimate son, over a year ago, Lu Huayan's attitude toward her had changed drastically. He spent his days drinking and carousing, never returning home at night, guilty. Yu Zhaoyu had no choice but to turn a blind eye. To her surprise, her tolerance only made Lu Huayan more reckless, ultimately leading to the incident with Hongxiao. "Hongxiao and I are innocent," Lu Huayan hastily explained. "Once I married you, I intended to live a good life with you. I, Lu Huayan, am not the kind of scoundrel who covets others while already married. When I learned you had married me for ulterior motives, I admit I was so angry that I did foolish things. But later, when you didn't seem to mind and even grew cold toward me, I became more and more resentful. That's why I sought out Hongxiao. But Zhaoyu, I never thought about divorcing you. Look. The sachet you embroidered for me when we got engaged, I've been wearing it all this time." The sachet was a token of their engagement, personally made by Yu Zhaoyu for Lu Huayan. Yu Zhaoyu had practiced needlework since childhood, and the small sachet was exquisitely embroidered. Enjoying the drama, I stirred the pot. "Then how did your personal jade pendant end up with Hongxiao? And her father said you were going to take her as your official wife." "I lost the jade pendant after getting drunk. As for taking her as a wife, that's completely absurd. I never said I would marry Hongxiao." When his gaze turned back to Yu Zhaoyu, his initial excitement turned to grievance. "I know I was wrong. If you want a divorce because you're tired of me, then I won't force you to stay, I teased. How could she be tired of you? After you and father were imprisoned, she cried secretly under the covers every night. And all those snacks and clothes she sent to the prison, didn't she put a lot of thought into preparing them? With the misunderstanding cleared up, Yu Zhaoyu and Lu Huayan finally reconciled. Poor Hongxiao, though, had endured a beating for no reason. Perhaps they also felt guilty. They went to apologize to her, gave her 500 taels of silver as compensation, and even helped her find a good husband. Only then did the matter come to an end. When Lu Huayan learned he was going to be a father, he was overjoyed, vowing to build a successful career in the West and honor the family name. After father-in-law and Lu Huayan left for the West, only the three of us remained at home, supporting each other. Yu Zhaoyu's pregnancy was still early, and her body was still agile. Now that we were truly a family, Lu Huayu and I decided not to continue hiding the fact that we were wealthy. Naturally, we also revealed our pretense of being ill, so besides managing the mansion's internal affairs, Yu Zhaoyu would help me make clothes in her free time. I had opened a new clothing shop. Noble ladies favored Yu Zhaoyu's embroidery skills and specifically requested clothes made by her. She was kept busy and happy. Joking, if I ever leave Lu Huayan in the future, I could probably make a living in the capital with my embroidery skills alone. It was not an empty boast. My team of girls had grown larger and larger. Most of them were orphans abandoned at birth, poor girls forced into marriages by their fathers or brothers, or women who had fled to me to escape abuse from their in-laws. After training and assignment by Cuiqiao, they were now able to stand on their own. Even if they never relied on marriage for a living, they could still live well. During this time, a merchant from another region passed through and said coldly, "There are too many poor women in the world. You can help this one, but you can't help the next." I calmly told him, "I'll help as many as I can. Among those I've helped, if even one person passes on this kindness because of my assistance and goes on to help another, then my efforts will not have been in vain." A few days later, after Lu Huayu and I finished restocking our goods, we passed through the city gate and encountered the destitute Shangguan Mingrui and Shangguan Mingzhu. They had been stripped of their titles by the emperor and reduced to commoners, exiled to a barren land. Their parents had also been implicated and driven out of the capital along with them. When Shangguan Mingzhu saw me, she still spat contemptuously and cursed, "You bitch, did you come here on purpose to laugh at me?" I tilted my chin up. "If I'm not here to laugh at you, could it be that I'm here to bid you farewell? The tricks you used to take me down have now turned into a knife that stabbed you to death. How does it feel?" Shangguan Mingzhu, she was so enraged that she tried to pounce on me, but Shangguan Mingrui held her back. Naturally, I wouldn't let her good brother off the hook either. Before leaving, I mocked, "Oh right, young duke. If you ever get so poor that you can't survive, feel free to come find me. I'll give you 2 copper coins to buy a sesame seed cake." After walking a distance, Lu Huayu suddenly glanced back. The 2 figures were fading into the distance, gradually shrinking into tiny black dots. "What, do you think I went too far with my words?" I asked. His eyes were cold and indifferent. "Ayun, if one day you want to kill someone with your own hands, I will hand you the knife without hesitation." My heart skipped a beat. Then I remembered something and said, sounding a bit discontent, "I haven't even settled the score with you about Shangguan Mingzhu." "Your Mingzhu Pavilion, was it named after her?" He answered frankly. "We grew up together. It was inevitable that affection would develop. When we were 16, she loved pearls and jadeite, so I opened this Mingzhu Pavilion specially for her. I originally intended to give it to her as a betrothal gift. Later, she fell in love with that stable hand, and I let go of that thought. As time went by, I had no time to take care of the shop, so it gradually fell into disuse. Somehow, listening to him talk about those past events that I hadn't been a part of, hearing about the deep affection he had once had for Shangguan Mingzhu, left a sour taste in my mouth, sourer than biting into an unripe plum. But it was all in the past now. There was no need for me to cling to a closed chapter of the story and torment Lu Huayu and myself who were living in the present, basking in the brilliant glow of the setting sun. I asked again, "When did you start liking me?" His gaze grew deep and intense. But his words came out hesitantly. The first time I saw you, I liked you. What about you, Ayun? When did you start having feelings for me? I rolled my eyes playfully. Didn't I tell you a long time ago? He refused to let it go, pressing further. No, you didn't. You must have forgotten. Think hard about it. The end.